Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, let's talk about evidence. If you were asked to imagine, like, the perfect photo proof of something strange in the sky,
Right.
clear, daytime, with something familiar for scale, you'd probably end up picturing something almost exactly like the Calvine UFO photo.
It's pretty remarkable visually.
Yeah, it's 1990, Scottish Highlands. You see this huge, really distinct diamond shape just hanging there.
Yeah.
And then, crucially, there's a British military jet, a Harrier, flying nearby. It gives you that instant sense of scale.
It's a powerful image. Objectively stunning, as you said. It looks like something that absolutely demands investigation.
Exactly. And that's the core puzzle we're digging into today. Because photographic experts have recently looked closely at this image, the surviving print anyway, and confirmed it's real. It's an unmanipulated photo of what was actually there in front of the camera.
Right. It's forensically authentic to the scene.
Yet for more than 30 years, this photograph was basically gone, hidden away, dismissed by the UK Ministry of Defence, the MOD. So our mission today is really asking, if the photo was real, why was it so effectively debunked, or at least buried, for 3 whole decades?
That's the heart of it. We're going to look at the MOD's own internal files, see what their official policy actually was, and combine that with the detailed technical breakdown of the photo print that survived. The aim isn't just proving the photo's real, it's pretty much established now. It's about understanding the process of how an institution like the MOD could look at this, confirm parts of it, find no explanation for the main object, and then just shelve it. How does that policy of non-investigation actually work to suppress something like this?
Okay, let's set the scene first. The actual sighting happened on August 4th, 1990, Saturday evening,
Yep.
up near Calvine, which is near Pitlochry in Scotland.
For sure.
And the witnesses, they weren't military or pilots. They were reported to be just 2 guys, believed to be hotel workers, maybe chefs or kitchen porters, out for a walk after work.
Ordinary people. And they apparently saw this large diamond-shaped UFO, as they described it, hovering for quite a while, about 10 minutes, they said, before it just shot straight up vertically really fast.
And crucially, they had a camera, probably a standard 35mm film camera, maybe an SLR or a decent compact. They managed to take several color photos. 6 negatives, we know, ended up with the MOD.
And taking 6 shots, especially including the one with the jet, suggests they really did have that 10-minute window. It wasn't just a fleeting glimpse.
Right. So these 2 guys, they take their photos. What happens next? They didn't just sit on them. They passed the original negatives to a newspaper, the Scottish Daily Record.
Sensible move, you might think. Get it out there.
And the paper, to their credit, seems to realize this was potentially huge.
Yeah.
They didn't just run the story immediately. They sent the negatives down to the MOD in London for an official look.
Which is where the story takes a turn. The negatives get to London on September 10th, 1990. And the MOD, well, they didn't drag their feet initially.
No, internal documents show they looked at them quickly. There's a key memo from September 14th, just 4 days after the negatives arrived.
And what did they find? Well, they confirmed the jet was definitely an RAF Harrier. No doubt about that.
Okay, so that part's confirmed. What about the main event, the diamond?
That's where it gets cagey. The memo states they reached no definite conclusion regarding the large diamond-shaped object. So officially, unexplained. Not debunked, just unknown.
But here's the kicker, isn't it? The thing that really should have set alarm bells ringing, maybe even more than the diamond itself?
Absolutely. It was the Harrier. That same internal memo confirmed something extraordinary. The MOD stated they had no record of Harriers operating in the area at the time at which the photographs are alleged to have been taken.
Right. Let that sink in. They have a photo, which they seem to accept as genuine, showing one of their own advanced jets next to a massive unknown object.
And according to their own flight logs and records, that Harrier shouldn't have been there.
It's a major contradiction. An unauthorized military aircraft alongside a genuine unknown. That's not just a UFO sighting. That's potentially a serious airspace management issue, maybe even a security breach.
You'd think that would trigger a massive investigation, right? Find out whose Harrier it was, why it was off the books, what it was doing near that object.
But what did the MOD actually do with these crucial original negatives in their possession?
This is critical to the whole "why was it hidden" question. On September 14th, 1990, the same day as that internal memo acknowledging the Harrier anomaly and the unexplained object, they sent the original negatives back to the Scottish Daily Record.
They got rid of the primary evidence.
Precisely. Within 4 days of receiving them, and on the very day they internally documented the inconsistencies, the physical proof was out of their hands. You could argue that was a very deliberate step.
It removes their direct responsibility for investigating the negatives themselves, doesn't it? If you don't hold the evidence.
Yeah. Exactly. You can fall back on policy. And this is where we see the MOD's standard operating procedure kick in, the one that allowed this, and likely many other sightings, to just disappear internally.
Let's talk about that policy, because it seems designed almost perfectly to allow them not to investigate things like Calvine.
It really was. The MOD consistently stated for decades that they have no expertise or role in respect of UFO flying saucer matters. That wasn't their job, as they saw it.
So what was their job, according to them?
Purely defense. Their stated remit was only to check if UK airspace had been compromised by hostile or unauthorized air activity. Think Russian bombers, unidentified conventional aircraft straying where they shouldn't, things that could potentially identify and intercept.
And a giant silent diamond hovering.
Yeah.
That didn't fit the hostile aircraft box.
Apparently not. Or, more accurately, because they couldn't prove it was hostile or identify it as a known threat, it fell outside the remit. They used cost as the justification.
Ah, the money angle.
Yes. They explicitly said they could not justify expenditure of public funds on investigations which go beyond our specific defense remit. Unless they could identify a specific immediate threat, and they maintain no UFO report ever had, they wouldn't spend the resources investigating.
So it's a policy of deliberate non-identification almost. If we can't quickly label it as a known enemy plane, we stop looking.
That's a good way to put it. They didn't debunk the diamond object in the Calvine case, not officially in that memo. They just decided it wasn't a defense priority under their rules. And by returning the negatives, they ensured no one else within the government system had to follow up either. It created this vacuum.
And the whole thing could have vanished forever, if not for one person.
Yeah, thankfully. Craig Lindsay, he was the RAF press officer for Scotland at the time. Before those negatives got sent back to the newspaper, he made a copy, just a single black and white print of the main photo. Maybe he sensed its importance, maybe it was just procedural, but he kept it.
A small act of, well, maybe not defiance, but certainly foresight.
Definitely. And that single print is the reason we're even able to talk about this with forensic certainty today. He eventually donated it to Sheffield Hallam University, and that's the image that's been analyzed.
Okay, let's get into that analysis then, because it doesn't just say, this looks real. It tackles the specific ways people tried to dismiss this photo over the years.
Right. The analysis is robust. Experts looked for any signs of manipulation, darkroom tricks, basically. They confirmed no negative or print-based manipulation.
How can they be so sure with just a print?
Film grain. In analog photography, the tiny grains that make up the image have a consistent pattern. If you, say, cut out an object from one photo and pasted it onto another before printing or double expose the negative, you'd see breaks or inconsistencies in the grain pattern along the edges of the inserted object. The analysis found the film grain is continuous and consistent right across the boundaries of the diamond object and into the surrounding sky and landscape. It means the object was genuinely there in the scene when the photo was taken. It's a genuine representation of a scene in front of the camera.
That pretty much rules out a deliberate hoax using photographic tricks available back then.
It does.
Yeah.
And then there's the scale. This wasn't some small object close to the camera. They used the Harrier jet as a known reference.
How long's a Harrier? About 14, 15 meters?
Roughly 14.4 meters, yeah. By estimating the distance to the foreground fence, assuming a standard 50mm lens, which is reasonable, and comparing the relative sizes, they could calculate the approximate size of the diamond object.
And the result was?
Huge. Somewhere in the range of 30 to 40 meters long.
30 to 40 meters. Okay, picture that. That's like 4 double-decker buses parked end to end, just hanging there.
Exactly. That size alone rules out pretty much any conventional explanation you could think of. Drones back then weren't that big. Weather balloons don't look like that or hold position like that. Small objects or birds are out. It was enormous.
That's staggering. But okay, what about the most common debunking theory you hear for photos like this near water? The reflection idea. That's just sunlight glinting off a lock or maybe a distorted reflection of something on the shore.
Great question, because the analysis tackles that head-on, using the physics of light and reflection. And the reflection theory really doesn't hold up for two main reasons.
Okay, what's the first?
Geometry. If it were a simple reflection in still water, you'd expect the object to be symmetrical, right? The top half mirroring the bottom half. But the analysis shows the diamond isn't perfectly symmetrical. There are differences between the upper and lower sections.
Okay, so it doesn't look like a clean mirror image.
Correct. But the second point is probably even stronger, and it's about lighting. Think about when you see something reflected in water. The reflection is almost always darker than the actual object itself, because water absorbs some of the light.
Right, that makes sense.
But in the Calvine photo, it's the opposite. The upper surfaces of the diamond object appear lighter than the lower surfaces. If the lower part were the reflection, it should be darker, not the other way around. That lighting pattern just doesn't fit with how reflections in water work optically.
So the physics of the image itself argues against it being a simple reflection.
Pretty strongly, yes. Based on the photographic properties alone, the reflection theory looks very unlikely.
Okay, so let's recap where we are. We have a photograph, authenticated by modern analysis, no signs of manipulation. It shows a truly massive, unexplained diamond-shaped object.
Alongside a Harrier jet that the MOD itself admitted, internally it had no record of being there.
And the MOD's response was to confirm the jet's presence, state no conclusion on the object, find the jet's presence anomalous, and then immediately return the evidence and invoke a policy of not investigating further because it wasn't an identifiable threat.
That's the sequence of events. Which leads us directly to the final and perhaps most baffling piece of this puzzle, the classification.
Right, because the story didn't just stop with the MOD returning the negatives. They classified the case file.
And not just for a standard period. The files containing the sighting report, the MOD's assessment, and crucially, any details about the witnesses, their names, statements were restricted. Initially, the lock was set for 30 years.
Which would have meant release around 2020. But that didn't happen, did it?
No. Before they could be released, they were reclassified, this time for much, much longer. The release date was pushed back dramatically, potentially to 2072. Some sources even suggest dates into the 2090s, depending on which specific files you're talking about. We're talking 75 years or more of additional secrecy.
75 years. For a case that the MOD officially deemed had no defense significance, that seems disproportionate.
It seems extremely disproportionate. What was the official reason given for this decades-long secrecy extension?
Privacy. The MOD stated they were withholding the personal information of the reporters, the two guys who took the photo under the Data Protection Act. Their policy, they claim, is often to protect identities in such files for up to 100 years.
Okay, let's pause there. The official reason is protecting the privacy of two kitchen porters.
Yes.
But think about the implications. If the MOD truly believed this was just a misidentification, a reflection, a weather phenomenon, maybe some secret but ultimately conventional aircraft test, why would the identities of the witnesses need to be guarded like state secrets until potentially the 2090s?
That's the core paradox, isn't it? The extreme secrecy seems completely at odds with the official dismissal of the event's significance. If it was nothing important, why hide the witnesses for nearly a century?
Unless hiding the witnesses served another purpose. By keeping their identities secret, the MOD effectively prevented anyone else, journalists, researchers, even other government departments, from finding these individuals, interviewing them, corroborating their story, or perhaps learning if they knew more about the Harrier, for example.
It slams the door on any independent investigation. Once the MOD returned the negatives and then classified the witness details, the case was effectively sealed.
Exactly. They controlled the narrative by controlling access. Claiming privacy becomes a very convenient tool to enforce decades of silence around an event they couldn't or wouldn't explain. The secrecy wasn't necessarily about protecting the witnesses, but about protecting the story from further scrutiny.
So wrapping this up, what have we actually learned? It seems the photo itself wasn't the deception here. The real sleight of hand was how the information was managed, wasn't it?
I think that's fair to say. We now know, thanks to Craig Lindsay's print and modern analysis, that the photograph is authentic to the scene. It shows what the witnesses saw. The reason it was debunked or faded into obscurity wasn't because the evidence was flawed, but because of a deliberate institutional strategy.
A strategy involving, first, that official policy of disinterest. It's not our job unless it's a definite threat. And second, the immediate return of the physical evidence, followed by that incredibly long classification of the witness identities.
Those two things combined effectively neutralized the Calvine sighting for over 30 years. It created the perfect conditions for skepticism to flourish because independent verification was made impossible.
Which leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? If the photo is real, the object unexplained, and the Harrier officially unrecorded in that location, what was so sensitive about August 4th, 1990, near Calvine?
Precisely. Maybe the extreme century-long classification isn't really about protecting the privacy of two hotel workers who saw something weird. Maybe it's about protecting something else entirely. Like perhaps the reason that unrecorded RAF Harrier was operating secretly in that specific airspace at that specific time. Could the diamond object have inadvertently photographed something far more classified than itself, a clandestine UK or Allied exercise, maybe testing advanced technology?
So the secrecy isn't about the UFO, but about what the military was doing nearby.
It's a strong possibility. Protecting the witness identities becomes paramount if their testimony could potentially shed light on unauthorized or highly classified military operations that happened to coincide with the UFO sighting. Maybe that's the secret worth keeping until 2072 or beyond. What were we doing there that day?